Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, it's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode. What episode number is this? It is episode 183, James. And so for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to do a recap of the news from this past week. After that, we are going to do a free agency recap, which is going to be mostly the NFC since we covered, basically the AFC last week. We'll try to, like, towards the end, maybe go back and get caught up on the things that happened in the AFC since last week. But that was like sort of like the big wave. And then last but not least, we'll do our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going there tonight, James?
It's going good. Glad it's Friday. I was telling you earlier, it's been a busy week, so glad to have the weekend here finally.
Yeah, time for some chill time, some relief, and I'm with you, man. So, all right, bud. Well, hey, how about whenever you're ready, do a little name that stadium for us.
All right. As you can see, I'm traveling around, going to different stadiums to host NFL games. First person guesses right, we'll give you an extra special shout out. Hell, fucking guess, and we'll give you a regular shout out because nobody's playing anymore. But last week I was at SoFi. The reason I chose SoFi last week was because like right as free agency was kicking off, like there were all these like surprise moves that like the Chargers were making and reducing their salary. Like,
Yeah.
they got rid of Keenan Allen, they ended with Mike Williams, like half the team they had offensively. So I just kind of went with SoFi for that.
Yeah, and on that note, it looks like you're saying they're hanging on to both Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
And so it makes me wonder, if Harbaugh, I mean, obviously he's trying to keep some kind of balance on that roster, right?
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of people, me included, were expecting either Bosa or Mack to be gone, but them to do more
Yeah.
to hang on to the guys on offense. And
Exactly.
they went the other way, so they're trying to keep a little bit of balance. But I also think that it's you look at Harbaugh's success coming from Michigan now, and they had really good defense, really good running game. Obviously the Chargers have Herbert, and so he's going to be the man. But they've been making comments about, you know, how much better would they be if they had a stronger running game. It makes me think that he's setting the stage to draft a running back earlier in the draft. And I know they went out and signed Gus Edwards, but I think he's wanting to land a workhorse guy and sort of build the team that way, if that makes sense, right? And so Herbert's obviously the franchise guy, but I think he's thinking, hey, ball control, defense, that's how we're going to transition from the salary cap nightmare into like the Harbaugh era.
Yeah. Exactly. And like I don't really necessarily agree with drafting a running back because like I think they looked at the draft and they saw like, well, we could get these rookie wide receivers or draft wide receivers because this draft class is stacked with wide receivers.
That's
So why do
true,
we need
yeah.
Keenan Allen? Why do we need Mike Williams? Pay him 30 million. They want 30 million a year when we can pay a guy 2 million a year that could get similar production in
Yeah,
like a year.
Quentin Johnston maybe is ready to step up too. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, that all makes sense, man. It's about being smart with the money.
Exactly, being smart with the money, and I mean, we say it every week. Fucking salary cap is fake as hell, but
Yeah. Some teams are trying to do it legit.
yeah, exactly,
They don't want to they don't want to sacrifice the future. They want to have long-term success and sustainability potentially. So,
exactly. And with bringing Harbaugh in, like take your lumps for a year or two, and let him build the team around what he sees the team being, which is the right thing to do with a head coach. Let the head coach kind of mold the team into his vision,
Yeah.
which would give him the best opportunity for success there.
Yeah, and a guy like Harbaugh too. It's a big name brand guy. Been in the NFL before, just won college championship. You know, he's wanting to be able to put his fingerprints on it. You wouldn't
Mhm.
bring him in if you weren't going to let him do it. So, all right, well that's cool, man. So let's segue over here, do our recap of the past week, James. And so, I know last week when we did this, we kind of skirted around some of the signings and stuff, since that's going to be a part of the free agency recap. I suppose we can do the same way for tonight, just kind of hit the news pieces that are sort of like not free agency related, and then we'll cover all those kind of transactions as we go through the teams.
It works for me.
All right, so man, it is like mock draft season, and so
Mm.
when you go to the NFL website, NFL.com, ESPN, anywhere, it is a ton of mock draft stuff going on, which is pretty cool. But that's all kind of like puff stuff, so I got to kind of sift through it to get to some of the real news here, my man. All right, so we know the Kansas City Super Bowl rally had, unfortunate situations, some shootings. A third man has now been charged with murder as part of that. And so, it looks like, let's see, Thursday in connection with the shooting of killed a woman, injured nearly 24 others. That's the whole thing. I don't know what this third man is specifically being tagged for, but, anybody who was doing that obviously is a bad actor. They need to go down. So,
Yeah, I just seen that article. Well, that was weird. The link you sent me just fucking popped up across your face. I was like, okay, so he discharged a firearm during it, so that's why they saw fit to charge him as well.
okay.
But I wanted to go back to, and I was looking at Kuiper's latest mock draft, and I was trying to sift through, see how many quarterbacks he had going in the first round,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah, I've
he
seen.
has 5 now going in the first round. I said I'm reading 5 in the top 10. Well, he had 5 in the top 11 on his
Okay.
mock draft, because he has whatchamacallit, Minnesota drafting McCarthy from Michigan.
Yeah.
But he has like the first 3 at quarterback, and then number 6, I think it was. No, that's. Did I miscount? Oh, no. He has number 4 is JJ McCarthy going to Minnesota, and then he has Bo Nix going number 12 to Denver.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to see that in a lot of the mock drafts. It's not necessarily those guys to those teams, but starting to see 5 in the first round, which
Yeah.
it seems like a lot, but quarterback driven league, right? So if you don't have your guy, you got to take some shots to get a guy.
hmm And like it'll be interesting, like what Washington does, which one they pick, then that's kind of gonna lay out the rest of them, because I don't think Jaden Daniels will fit with. Well, actually, it's a new coaching staff there, so he
Yeah.
might, but with New England. So, or you could see a team try to trade up to get one of those guys.
Oh yeah. Well, and I could see New England liking a guy like Jaden Daniels because they're just leaving the Mac Jones experiment,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, let's not get another statue in the pocket. Let's get a guy who can move around and do some stuff. I could see where you might want to change directions if you're going to go quarterback, but uh, and it's like the same thing with Washington, right? It's like, do you really want to take another North Carolina guy? I mean, it's hard to compare them, right? But the fan base will do that. It's not, doesn't mean it's right, but it's like, oh man, the fan base is like, you took another guy from North Carolina. What the hell, man?
See, I've
So
seen a lot of buzz on JJ McCarthy going number 2 overall recently.
I,
I
I
think
just, I still just don't see it with him. But maybe I'm
no,
not
I
watching
don't.
the right tape, man.
I mean, I agree with you. I think Jaden Daniels is the fit there, especially with picking up Mariota.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
sorry,
would make sense.
too far into free agency.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
But so you kind of could have the same offense,
Yeah,
maybe reduce a little bit for Mariota and his ability now, but fairly the same offense.
yeah. I'm sure he still got a little wiggle in him.
Yeah.
All right. So then, James, I read something about the NFL executive vice president Troy Vincent is wanting to get the hip drop tackle out of the game. It's like one of the 10 proposed changes that the league has on their like annual meeting agenda. I guess I'm trying to understand the hip drop tackle. I mean, this is a guy getting low and then sort of
So no, it's
lunging to
where you
tackle a
where
guy.
you kind of you hit them higher, like in the body, but as you're hitting them, you instantly drop down to the hip, legs, and wrap the legs up and take them to the ground.
Okay, so it's like you're driving them into the ground. It's just a different
Kind
way of
of,
doing it.
not really driving them into the ground. From what I understand of it, it's more of like you're you're wrapping their legs up so they can't do anything. Which I mean is how you fucking tackle.
I know,
But
well, yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Is that if we're going to make it harder for guys to tackle, oh man, I know player
oh,
safety is huge, and I'm not trying to say don't make the game safer, but it's just like, man, if you're going to make it impossible to play defense, we might as well just go to flag football, man.
so
And I know I'm
here's what it is.
exaggerating with that, but
Here's their definition of what it is. It calls for a 15-yard penalty if a defender grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing on and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knee.
yeah, I guess I'd have to like see it to fully understand it.
Yeah. So here's the thing with it, and why they're looking at it. It makes sense when you read the stats on it, and I'm looking for the exact percentage, but it says that just according to this article, this technique of tackling a runner has resulted in an injury rate that is up to 25 times higher than on tackles when it is not employed.
For like their lower body, like
Yeah, lower body,
knees and
knees
ankles
and
and stuff.
ankles. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So that's why they're looking at it. I think it's too subjective to be able to officiate it out of the game. I call it targeting, but because that's what I watch college football and that's what they call in college football. I don't remember what they call it in the NFL because I've always thought of it as targeting. Where it's like if you launch yourself and lead with the crown of your helmet and
Yeah.
stuff like that, that's not really as subjective as, well, did he, because you're going to be going to the ground, so
Yeah.
did he intend to do that? Was it was it like it's just like it's gonna come up to a point where, like you said, you might as well just fucking play flag football and
Yeah.
take out linemen and just have 7-on-7.
Yeah. And even then, I don't even know. I mean, it's just like we're just going to go all offense. So, um, it makes it harder to play defense, and I think it'll make more controversial calls in the games, right? Because, like you're saying, if it's somewhat subjective, you know, if my team gets hosed on a call and we could have won a playoff game, we're going to be calling for the refs, and we know that shit happens all the time every year, and so it's just
Mhm.
I don't know. It just seems like we're opening up a can of worms. But
Right,
I
because
mean,
like,
hey, if there's that many injuries coming from it, I get it. You got to try to change it somehow.
yeah, and like what they're saying is like for it to be a penalty, it has to be like one continuous action. And how are you going to judge if it's a continuous action or not? Like,
Yeah,
so he doesn't instantly drop. He takes a split second to drop. Then are you going to officiate that out of the game where if you can't tackle him below the legs at all?
yeah. Well, yeah, you can't go high,
Yeah,
but
you can't go high,
now
you
now we're
can't go
not going to be
low.
able to go low either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you can't go low? What happens if the guy tries to hurdle you? Is
Yep.
that going to be an automatic like it's like
Yeah. Well, yeah.
some
No. Well, if they leave the ground, then yeah. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Oh man. Every year there's stuff like this, and then I heard there was something in the kickoff. Um, I don't know why the kickoff is being brought up again because there's like no kickoff anymore. Everybody just kicks it out of the back of the end zone.
yeah, um so the kickoff thing, I haven't read the kickoff thing. There's a little blurb about it in the hip drop article I was referencing. And also with the hip drop tackle, it looks like what they're looking at for the another aspect they're looking at the rule instead of flagging them in the game, issuing warning letters and fines for it.
Okay.
But so like the little blurb, it doesn't say what I'm gonna have to look up what the kickoff rule is, but it says according to them, it would add 3 to 5 yards in field position to the league's average drive start, which would, in theory, or could, in theory, increase scoring because the scoring in the league has dropped. The average score, the per game scoring average has dropped for 3 consecutive seasons.
Yeah, that's because you got frickin' Tom Brady retiring, Drew
Tom
Brees
Brady.
retiring, Ben
Mm-hmm,
Roethlisberger retiring. You got a
mm-hmm.
whole new era of quarterbacks that, yeah, they're good, but you have some of the great ones are no longer in the game, man. I still think it's like way more offense than it is defense.
Mm-hmm. And and that's the thing. So what are you going to do? Take out go scoring shopping. Let's make it
Yeah,
harder for the defense to stop a team. Like hell, give them 5 downs instead of 4 to get a first down.
yeah, yeah. Oh man.
Or heck, let them play with the ball till they turn it over. Why not?
Yeah.
Turn it over or score. Like,
Oh
like where
man.
does it
Yeah.
end? Get rid of field goals so you can't kick a field goal
Touchdowns
so you
only.
have, yeah, or you can't punt on 4th down. Like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, well
where
I figured with the kickoff thing that something like that is in the future. I hope it's a ways away, but it almost seems like punting is going to get phased out at some point. They're going to do something where it's, hey, if you don't convert your 4th down, then the other team gets the ball like at a certain yard line or something. Because if kickoffs were that bad, punts are, I gotta believe, are not that far behind.
hmm Okay, so revamped kickoff rule. I just searched it. The NFL remake kickoffs. So prohibiting the kicking team from moving until the ball contacts or is fielded within a designated landing zone between the receiving team's 20-yard line and goal line.
Oh my gosh. So it's not good enough that they can't get a running start like they used to. Now you're saying they can't even move until the ball lands in that zone?
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
gosh, man.
but if the kick doesn't reach the zone in the proposed rule, the ball would be placed. So getting rid of onside kicks because if it doesn't reach the 20-yard line, it would be placed on the 40. If it goes out of
jeez.
bounds or is down inside the end zone, the ball would go to the 35, and if it hits the zone, rolls into the end zone, and is downed, it'd go to the 20.
Okay.
But it would get rid of the fair catch. But so how? Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous now. No, it's not getting rid of onside kicks. Onside kicks would remain under this proposal, but teams attempting them would be required to alert the opposing club and could only do so in the fourth quarter if trailing.
No, that's garbage. You can't tell teams you're going for an onside kick.
Can't tell them not only
It's because if you line up like normal and you pooch it down the middle, then they're gonna say, well, you messed it up because we got this zone now.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, man. All right, because like I was just thinking for a second, trying to think the other way, because I feel like I'm already getting very negative tonight. But I thought for a second there, if you can't leave the line of the kickoff until the ball reaches the zone,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that gives the return team just a little bit more time to set up and potentially brings back kick return touchdowns, which would be cool because that was a fun part of the game, right?
Yes,
I know I was just talking about scoring being out of control, but this is a special team score, not an offensive score, and so I guess I would like that, but now I got to think about it. Now I got to think about it.
But it would also, by default, bring it back because you have to return the kick. You cannot call a fair catch.
You have to if it's between the goal line and the 20.
If you field it between the goal line and the 20, you have to return the kick.
Yeah.
If it lands between the goal line and the 20 and goes into the end zone,
yeah, you can still down it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you would only get the ball on the 20-yard line.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think, to me, you would want to return it if, let's say, you get it at the 10, because you're getting it at the 10 without anybody running at you yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also this thing where you could only do an onside kick in the fourth quarter if you are trailing. If that were the case, the Saints might not have won the Super Bowl they did because that was like the key play in the game.
Yeah.
The freaking onside kick to start the second half.
Totally caught them off guard. Something nobody ever thought was going to happen. Just shifted momentum right out the gate of the second half. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like that.
So apparently, though, with the kickoff rule, the start line of the kickoff would be the opposing team's 40.
Okay.
So you would cut down on the space, but you would have, and that's going to be really hard for that. I mean, that's going to cause like a lot of skill kickers in there, like punters basically being kickers.
Kick it super high
and 20
not
yards.
Far at all. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. Well, let's keep moving here, man. The next thing I had on the news, which I'm just gonna, put it out there, and then we'll come back to it in question of the week. But the Lions have released cornerback Cameron Sutton following the issuance of a domestic violence arrest warrant. I have not seen all the details, but I heard through the grapevine that there's a video out there somewhere of him beating a woman, and that's why the Lions were so quick to release him. Like I said, I've not seen it, and I know the Lions originally made a comment that like they heard about it and they were looking into it, but they weren't going to comment on it. And then it was almost like right after that they released him.
So the charge is domestic battery by strangulation.
Oh. Okay.
And apparently the arrest warrant was issued because the police weren't able to locate him and hadn't been able to locate him since March 7th.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so he allegedly battered a woman before fleeing the scene, and according to the sheriffs, a spokesman or the source within spokesperson within the sheriff, they told ESPN that there was evidence of wounds on the woman's body.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. You know, obviously as a Lions fan, I don't like it because we're losing a guy. But as a human being, I definitely don't like it because we hear way too much about this shit happening in the world, and you know, we're going the wrong way as a society, right? You know, like we're doing more violent things and more aggressive behavior. We're not becoming more peaceful. Things are breaking down in society, James. It's not good,
Yeah.
man.
So the real fucked up part about it is, aside from the domestic violence, the real where the Lions had to do this is police have not been able to find him. This article is from yesterday.
Okay.
They weren't able to find him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's not good.
So
yeah. So all right, but yeah, we'll come back to that because I want to talk about the team effect for the Lions and what all that means later on. Um, so this, I mean, this has got to be the biggest thing that's happened since we met last, and you know, none of this is obviously in any particular order, but Aaron Donald, the frickin' man among frickin', you know, boys in the NFL, has retired after 10 seasons. I know the last couple years he's talked about it every offseason. It seemed to me like the timing of it, you know, I mean, the timing's the timing. It happens when it happens. You know, as a team, I think you want to know sooner than later, right? But, you know, it's not like too late in the off season, but they would have, I'm sure, preferred to have it a little sooner because maybe they could have done something in free agency. But um, the dude, phenomenal, man. Phenomenal. Like the best at his position ever. Like, I don't even think there's a question, you know? I mean, you can he's just such a different kind of defensive tackle, man. You know, a guy like that getting, you know, double digit sacks every year, double teamed all the time.
triple team sometimes.
Yeah, we've just never seen a force like that on the defensive line, man. It's been an amazing career.
Yeah. So, and I applaud him for stepping away, especially when you read his quote about it. Part of his quote is basically, I just don't got the urge to want to push myself to do that no more. Which is terrible English.
Yeah, but I'm sure being a pro football player hurts physically.
I'll expand it. He said, I will always love football, but to think about going through another camp and another 14 season, I just don't got the urge to want to push myself to do that no more. I'm burnt out. The best way to say it is I'm full, I'm complete, I'm satisfied with what I was able to do in 10 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and I've seen articles, you know, comparing him to like Barry Sanders, having the 10-year and retired career. Um, man, I'm trying to think if this was true or if this was just something I heard, but somebody was saying that him and Barry Sanders both made the Pro Bowl all 10 years of their career.
He did not.
Okay.
No, he was no. Sorry. He was he was 8 times first team All Pro.
Yeah.
But he did make the Pro Bowl all 10 years, which
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. All right, let's see.
He is one of 3 players to win the Defensive Player of the Year award 3 times.
Yeah.
LT and JJ Watt.
Yep. Yeah, I mean LT phenomenal, but different kind of defender, right? You know,
Hmm.
um, it's just so rare. You don't see defensive tackles like light up the sacks like that, man. I mean, it just never happens.
So he's second all time for primary defensive tackles in a sack in his career in a career, behind John Randall.
Okay,
So he had 111 sacks. John Randall had 137 and a half sacks as a defensive tackle.
gotcha. Okay. And how many years did Randall play? Do you know?
I could tell you, but I don't
That's
know
okay.
for sure. I don't even know who the hell he is.
I think he played for the Vikings.
So he played for 20, no, for 13 seasons.
Okay, well, that's only three more, but okay,
Yeah. So he was, but he was only a six-time first team All Pro and seven-time Pro Bowler.
gotcha. All right. Well, let's keep it moving here, James. So next up, this guy, we're going to mention him tonight, but Chase Young, he is going to be undergoing neck surgery. From what I heard, should be ready to roll for week one, but something going on with the neck, and he's got to get it fixed up. So, um, you know, the neck stuff
I
is scary, but I,
I
I
missed that, but isn't that why he missed? Didn't he have something with his neck at the beginning of last season too?
he might have, man, he might have. It's not something that I was all over, but either way, it sounds like it's not like a Peyton Manning neck thing, right? Where it could be like a career threatening thing. At least they're not saying it that way from what I've been reading.
Yeah. So I missed it. Blah 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 blah. So it stemmed from his a stinger. Okay, yep, it was. It was. So
Okay,
it stems from the reason why he missed the beginning of last season too. So he got a
gotcha.
stinger in the preseason, and he missed the first game.
Okay,
But and so it was like, and he that's part of the reason um why he got such a low trade value last year, because teams wouldn't clear him on the physical to trade for him.
mm,
Like it says right here, the reason why Sweat went to Chicago instead of him is because Chicago wasn't comfortable with his neck scans,
hey, that
but
makes
San
more sense,
Francisco
man.
was. I
Yeah,
just
that
dropped
makes
something,
more sense.
so forgive me while I look for what I dropped.
Hey, do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do. Um, yeah, while you disappear and reappear, the next thing I had on the news was
Yes.
Brown's new wide receiver Jerry Jeudy recently traded from the Broncos. He has signed a 3-year extension with the Browns, worth up to 58 million. And so um, I'm not like a super huge Jerry Jeudy fan. Like I I always felt like the hype on him. He never lived up to it in Denver, and I know a lot of people are going to blame that on the quarterback. I do like Cleveland stacking the weapons so that Deshaun Watson is out of excuses. Um,
But honestly, like, even if he's out of excuses and he comes in and he he sucks. It's not like they could do anything
Yeah.
with him
No,
because
I agree.
they
I
gave
agree.
him like a $700 million fully guaranteed contract or
Yeah.
something ridiculous like
But
that. So
but at least then it's like, okay, we can go get another quarterback, feeling comfortable that we have weapons. So, maybe it's they got to draft one on the cheap, or trade or sign one on the cheap, but um, you know, at least they feel like, hey, we set Watson up for success and he just couldn't get it done.
mhm.
All right. Let's see. I think I'm starting to get into the less exciting news pieces here. Kirk Cousins going to be wearing the number 18, not the number 8 with Atlanta. Whoop-de-doo, right, James?
Yay! Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good on my end, man. We can move over to our main event here unless there's anything you want to hit on.
Just the last little thing was the potential ownership change in Houston, where it's going from mom to son. The
Okay.
widow of I forget his name, whoever the owner that died, uh, what is it, 3 years ago. His widow was the primary owner of the team, and the NFL is going to vote on making the son the primary owner of the team.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know.
That's all I really had outside of what you.
Okay. Well, let's get into our free agency recap. And we're starting off with the NFC East tonight. The Dallas Cowboys are the first team on the list. As of last week, they had done almost nothing. They they re-signed their long snapper, but since last week they've had a few other moves. They brought back running back Rico Dowdle. They signed linebacker Eric Kendricks, and they signed cornerback Jordan Lewis, who was with them previously. I don't know if he left for a year or what, but they're saying he signed, not re-signed. So um, either way, still a very slow offseason for Dallas when you consider how many guys they've actually lost. Dallas is, they're losing talent. They're not
Mhm.
accumulating talent.
Yeah, and like you mentioned losses, and I'm going to assume the people that haven't signed are on my list that haven't re-signed with them are losses. They could obviously re-sign with Dallas, but you have Tony Pollard, who's with the Titans, Michael Gallup, and Chuma Adoga, who I believe are still free agents. Tyron Smith, who signed with the Jets.
Oh
Tyler
yeah.
Biadasz, who signed with the Commanders. Dorrance Armstrong, who signed with the Commanders. Dante Fowler Jr., who signed with the Commanders. Neville Gallimore, who signed with the Dolphins. Jonathan Hankins, who signed with the Seahawks. Leighton Vander Esch retired. Stephon Gilmore and Jaron Curse are still free agents, last I had seen.
Yeah. So I mean, you could get a couple of these guys back, but the bulk of them are already signed elsewhere or
Uh-huh.
retired. And then I think like the guys on defense, like Gilmore and Curse, because Dan Quinn is gone and they brought in Mike Zimmer, I think they're basically saying they're going in a different direction. And so
Mm-hmm.
those guys probably aren't coming back either. Um, Man, it seems like Dallas is, they're going the wrong direction hard, man.
They are. Um, I think it's odd. I mean, they have a couple things going on there, and they like the Joneses, from what I've read, aren't very happy with how free agency's going. And all I
Oh,
have to say
duh.
is the ball's in your fucking court, motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Dallas every year gets a ton of hype about, oh, Super Bowl, this is the year, America's team, blah, blah, blah. And then they just always fucking choke it up. And then last year, I was expecting it to be worse than it was. McCarthy did end up coaching the shit out of that offense and got some good production out of them. But
Mm-hmm.
same old story. Come playoff time, they can't do anything. So I don't know, dude. It's the same old story in Dallas. So. All right, next up we got the New York Giants here, James. And the big story with the Giants is that they went out and they made a trade for Brian Burns, formerly of the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Massive move, bringing him in, locking down that edge position for them. For me personally, I kind of feel bad for Brian Burns because I don't know that you wanted to go from the Panthers to the Giants. But, that's how trades work in the NFL, and I've not heard him complain, so it's all good. It just Burns signed a new 5-year deal worth up to 150 million, so he's getting paid. It just he's definitely not going to a competitor, which is the part that sucks for him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at a couple years ago, the first season with Dayball, the Giants were
A
competitive,
surprise playoff team, yeah.
and they made the playoffs. So it seems like the pieces might be there. They just needed a quarterback, which
They still need a quarterback.
yeah, because who they have now. Well, they still have
Danny Dimes, man.
Danny Dimes, Danny Nichols, Danny Turnovers, whatever you want
Yeah.
to call him.
Yeah. And so aside from them trading to bring in Burns, probably their bigger signing was Devin Singletary at running back to replace
Mm-hmm.
Saquon Barkley leaving. And Singletary had a pretty good year last year down in Houston. He's got a lineups rating of 82, which is pretty respectable. After that, they brought in wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie. He's rocking a 76 on lineups. So that's not too bad because they're not, he's depth. He's not expected to be the wide receiver one. And then they brought in John Runyon at guard from the Packers. They got him at a 76 on lineups. I think he's better than that. In either case, that's good because they need to, try to have somewhat of an offensive line. They also did bring in tackle Jermaine Ulamore from the Raiders. And then let's see, some of these other ones weren't quite as earth-shattering. They signed Drew Lock at quarterback. I don't know how much that matters, but aside from him, they did bring in Matt Nelson at tackle. I do like him. Aaron Stinney at guard and Austin Schlottman at center. I don't know a whole lot about him though. And so yeah, who'd they lose, man?
All right. So they lost Tyrod Taylor to the Jets, Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, Matt Breida, Matt Breida, who's a free agent, Paris Campbell to the Eagles, Sterling Shepard, a free agent, Matt Pert, offensive tackle to the Broncos, Ben Bredesen to the Bucks, guard Tyree Phillips is free agent, Justin Pugh, free agent, Jihad Ward went to the Vikings, Sean Robinson went to the Panthers, Adoree Jackson's a free agent, Isaiah Simmons, Xavier McKinney signed with the Packers, long snapper and kicker.
Yeah,
And
Randy Bullock. Yeah, I think the Xavier McKinney one hurts. He was coming into his own really well at safety. Obviously Saquon Barkley hurts, even though they kind of mitigated that a little bit with Devin Singletary. The rest of these guys are not like earth shattering. So I don't know. I mean, the Giants aren't doing horrible. I think they made a huge splash by getting Brian Burns. I think you talked about it though. They got to get a quarterback, or kind of none of it really matters, right? Because
exactly.
Minus the 1 year where Daniel Jones had like 700 rushing yards, he just hasn't shown the consistency to get it done as a passer.
Exactly.
All right, so then next up, James, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, and these guys signed Saquon Barkley, which I don't know. To me, I don't like that signing, but I get it. DeAndre Swift is gone. He went to Chicago. So they brought in Barkley, even though they got a mobile quarterback and they've historically used 4 or 5 running backs in a committee. That's okay. That's fine. They brought back C.J. Gardner Johnson after he was with Detroit for a year. He was with Philly before that, so they're bringing back a familiar face there. They re-signed kicker Jake Elliott, which no brainer. Jake Elliott's been one of the best kickers in the league, and he's been clutch too. You got to get that guy back. They extended offensive guard Landon Dickerson. They re-signed Brandon Graham on the edge. They went out and they brought in Bryce Huff on the edge. He was the guy from the Jets that nobody could really figure out what he was going to end up getting because he was a part-time guy, but he had phenomenal stats. Well, they signed him to some pretty darn good money. And then they extended their punter, Brandon Mann. Aside from that, a couple low-level moves, nothing crazy. Who'd they lose, my man?
All right. So the Eagles lost. When I flipped to the page that they lost, or for the losses, I hadn't scrolled down. So they lost, no big loss. Marcus Mariota to the Commanders. Rashad Penny, Boston Scott are both free agents. DeAndre Swift to the Bears. Julio Jones, Quez Watkins, Olamide Zacchaeus at wide receiver, still free agents. Jack Driscoll, tackle, went to the Dolphins. Sua Opeta, guard, went to the Bucks. Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox both retired. Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard are free agents. Nicholas Morrow went to the Bills. Those are linebackers. Avante Maddox, Bradley Roby, cornerbacks are free agents still. Kevin Bayard went to the Bears at safety, and Justin Evans at safety is still a free agent. When I look at Philadelphia, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, because I didn't hear you mention that they traded for Kenny Pickett to be their backup quarterback.
Oh man, you're right. No, I didn't hit on that. Thank you. And they also signed Devontae Parker, a wide receiver. That's one I missed too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I
It's
missed a
just,
couple of them.
but like when you look at them, like I don't know what the fuck they're doing, because how is Kenny Pickett going to be a backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I don't see the fit.
Saquon Barkley, I understand possibly liking Saquon and seeing if you can capture that what happened 2 years ago again with him, but that's with having Jalen Hurts at quarterback,
man,
and a mobile quarterback. You don't need the big name running back. Like I mean, last year DeAndre Swift had a decent season when he was decent season
Yeah.
for them at running back, and he's not like the big name. Yeah, he formerly was, but he was trying to rebuild his career after being hurt like 7,000 times.
Oh yeah. Hurt James in
Yes.
quotes, because it's debatable. Was he really hurt? Um, yeah, I think that on the departure side, you mentioned Jason Kelsey retired and Fletcher Cox retired. Those are two that are going to hurt them, right? Those
Yeah.
are hard to backfill. Fletcher Cox, I know they've got what's his name, Jordan Davis or whatever, that they drafted out of Georgia a couple years ago, and then they drafted the other guy out of Georgia last year. And so, maybe that they're getting some reinforcements in there. It was good they hung on to Brandon Graham just to keep some kind of stability on that line until these young guys fully come up. Kevin Byard, he was better in Tennessee, right? He didn't really fit in as well in Philly. Shaq Leonard, man, he just, ever since he changed his name, he just has never lived up to anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Philly, I think, going in the wrong direction, but they're one of those teams that they've been doing the salary cap dance every year, and so maybe it's finally coming back to get them a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like with them, like they were one of the teams that, if I remember correctly, were kind of in salary cap purgatory.
Yeah.
So
And they've
I'm
just
not.
been great at figuring it out every year, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not. And also all these moves that like some of these moves that what's his face I can't remember his name, the GM there does, like they work out. Like he has like that touch to find
Oh yeah,
those
Howie
gems, and they
Roseman,
work
and
out.
yeah,
Howie Roseman, yeah. So maybe it'll work out for them, but I have significant concerns with them coming into this season as opposed to last season, where I thought they were by and far going into the season the best team in the league.
yeah. All right. Well, next up we've got the Washington Commanders. I almost said Redskins there for a second, having a little relapse, but Washington. We'll go through it all, but I think they're having a little bit of a surprisingly good offseason so
Mhm.
far, in my opinion. And so, looking at the people they've brought in, linebacker Bobby Wagner, still rocking an 87 rating in lineups. Yeah, he's in the decline phase of his career, but he can still be a leader for a defense. They brought in running back Austin Eckler to pair with Brian Robinson. I like that. Eckler knows too that he's going to be a part of a committee. It's just the stage he's
Mhm.
at in his career. They brought in linebacker Frankie Louvu from Carolina. He was a very underrated, very productive, very solid linebacker there. They brought in tight end Zach Ertz, another one of these guys, a little bit long in the tooth, but Logan Thomas is gone. Ertz can still be productive if you need him. They signed kicker Brandon McManus. It's a kicker, but kickers can kill a team, right? And McManus
Mhm.
has had a pretty good career going back to his days in Denver and briefly Jacksonville last year, whatever else. But then they brought in at edge Dorrance Armstrong, sniped him away from Dallas. I like that move when you take a guy away from a division rival. And then they brought in safety Jeremy Chin, 77 rating, and center Tyler Biadasz, however you say his name, formerly from Dallas with a 75 rating. And then they brought in edge guy Clellan Farrell. They also signed Marcus Mariota to be presumably their backup quarterback as they get that worked out in the draft. Um, but yeah, man, why don't you tell me a little bit? Oh, and they brought in Dante Fowler. I just saw that one. I missed him on my list earlier. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me who they lost, man.
So who Washington lost? And it's kind of a list. Some of them no sweat. Some of them okay. So they lost Jacoby Brissett, who went to the Patriots. Sam Howell they traded to Seattle at quarterback. Running back Antonio Gibson to the Patriots. Alex Arma fullback is free agent. Pringle and is a free agent. Curtis Samuel went to the Bills. Logan Thomas is a free agent still. Charles Leno as a free agent to offensive tackle. Sahadiq Charles went to the Titans. They lost center or free agent centers Nick Gates and Tyler Larson. Free agent edge James Smith Williams. Lost Casey Toohill to the Bills. Defensive line Abdullah Anderson, free agent. Cody Barton went to the Broncos. A couple free agents at linebacker with David Mayo and Khalil Hudson. Kendall Fuller went to the Dolphins. Terrell Burgess, safety, is a free agent. Cameron Curl went to the Rams. And Sly went to the Jaguars. With Washington, I think what they did, what they're doing is they're shoring up. What I see them doing here is shoring up that offensive line. They got Biadasz or Biadazi or however the fuck you pronounce his name to be the anchor at center. They signed a guard, and they kind of got rid of some of the fluff that they had on the offensive line, and they're shoring up that offensive line, which can protect the a rookie quarterback. And in addition, with bringing in veteran Zach Ertz can be that safety blanket for
Yep.
the rookie quarterback, which is we talk about a lot, a rookie quarterback need. So I really like what Washington is doing, but with the signing, and I mentioned this in the news, with the signing of Mariota, it really looks like they're going the Jaden Daniels route at the number 2 pick because they have that similar style.
I agree, man. I agree. And I like what Washington's doing. I'm actually surprised they've been able to bring in some of these bigger name guys, albeit maybe on the backside of their careers, right? But
Mm.
I still think that they're having a pretty successful offseason so far.
Yeah.
All right, well, that takes us to the NFC North,
South.
James. Oh, you want to skip and go to the South? Okay, all right. Let me scroll down here. We're going to the dirty South.
We're going to the dirty South. I
Yeah.
want to do the North last because I have a feeling
Yeah,
that there's going to be a lot of opinions there.
that's all good. All right, so that takes us to the Atlanta Falcons. And so with the Atlanta Falcons, this was maybe one of the biggest moves of the offseason was them signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract, $50 million signing bonus, $100 million guaranteed, blah, 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 blah. Cousins is, the best quarterback in the world of all time at negotiating contracts and maximizing his value. I do like that he left Minnesota because they just threw him under the bus every fucking year. No, he's not going to be the kind of quarterback that's like Mahomes that could just win it for you. But he is in the top half of the league every year as a quarterback, and I like him. So they brought him in, which was huge. And then along with him, they brought in some weapons at wide receiver. They made a trade to bring in Rondale Moore from Arizona. Part of that, they traded Desmond Ritter, got him out of there. But then they also signed Darnell Mooney, formerly from the Bears. I liked that. They did bring in Ray McLeod. Not as thrilled about him. But I think, when you have Mooney and Rondale Moore and you're pairing them with Drake London, and then you have Kyle Pitts, and then you also have Bijan Robinson, Cousins is walking into a situation where he's got weapons, to utilize his skill set. So I think that was smart of them to do that. Aside from that, they had some lower level signings, but, I think they're showing, hey, we got to build the offense and then we'll figure out the defense, right? So why don't you tell me about who they lost, man?
All right, so you mentioned Desmond Ritter, traded him to the Cardinals. Fullback Keith Smith's a free agent. Mac Hollis, wide receiver, went to the Bills. Van Jefferson went to the Steelers. Scott Miller, Cordero Patterson are both free agents at wide receiver. At tight end, they have Mecole Pruitt, Jonnu Smith went to the Dolphins. Matt Hennessy at offensive guard went to the Eagles. They lost. And on the defensive line, they have Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, and Albert Huggins, who are free agents. Cornerback Trey Flowers is still a free agent, and they lost Jeff Okudah to the Texans. When I look at Atlanta and what I saw last year, and I talked about it, I thought Atlanta had a really good chance to be a good team last year. They were just missing the quarterback. Yeah. They have a couple weapons. They have a tight end, Kenny Pitts, who is his name Kenny? Kyle Pitts. Thank you. I was like, that didn't sound right. Kyle Pitts, who I think is going to be one of the premier tight ends in the league. They just haven't had the quarterback play, and I think he's a weapon
Cousins
that Cousins
likes his tight ends,
can take advantage of nonstop. Also, I don't like the fact that Cordero Patterson's still sitting out there free agent. He's more of a
he's a gadget guy.
He's a gadget guy, but I think he could set the tone. But hey, if they change the kickoff, they'll go out and sign him next day because he could run some of those back for a touchdown. I think Atlanta's trending in the upward direction. I think they had last year was a colossal failure for them with who they had, but it started with quarterback play. And that's what they're really shoring up because Cousins is really, really reliable at quarterback as long as he can stay off his back and stay healthy after last season tearing his Achilles.
Now, they did lose Matt Hennessy at guard. That's one that I'm a little bit concerned with.
Yes.
Atlanta did have a pretty good offensive line, but I would hate to see it's like the curse of Cousins. He now goes to a new team and maybe they stop replenishing that offensive line. We're just going to see disaster all over again where Cousins is one of the most rushed and hit quarterbacks in the league. But I'm not, one guy leaving doesn't mean we got to sound the alarm. I'm just saying let's keep an eye on that. They did hire Raheem Morris as their head coach. And so to me now, looking at this, the offense is pretty much set, minus filling in some depth, like we talked about, like getting another piece for the offensive line and then just, getting developmental guys, whatever. They got to go all defense in this draft. You have a defensive minded head coach. Start putting your fingerprints on the defense. I hope that Raheem Mostert and company don't make the mistake and add other offensive weapons early in the draft, because a lot of times those sort of, he's not a first time head coach, but it happens, man. Like the defensive guys, like, I'll make anybody good on defense. They go all offense and it never works. And so, hey, your offenses should be there. Just focus on defense now in the draft.
Exactly.
All right, so that takes us to the Carolina Panthers. And the Carolina Panthers, they made a trade with Pittsburgh for Deontay Johnson. I liked that. He was kind of falling out of favor in Pittsburgh. Some of that probably the quarterback situation. Either way, Carolina needs a weapon for Bryce Young. They got one that helps. I don't think that that's the full answer, but it's a piece of the puzzle. They also brought in Robert Hunt at guard. He had a pretty good year with Miami last year. They signed Josie Jewell at linebacker from Denver. They brought in Damian Lewis at guard. They brought in defensive tackle Ashawn Robinson, cornerback Troy Hill, cornerback Dane Jackson. Those are kind of the big ones. They did have some other moves, like they signed at edge Kalavon Chason, formerly of Jacksonville. Let's see. That's pretty much the big signings. They had some other guys. Yash Nijman signed with them. I don't think I covered him. I did like that signing. Who'd they lose, man?
All right. So they have DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault as free agents. I don't think Deontay Johnson is an upgrade over them, and I just don't like that. Hayden Hurst at tight end went to the Chargers. Guard Gabe Jackson's a free agent. Center Bradley Bozeman went to the Chargers. They lost on edge Yetur Gross-Matos to the 49ers. Marquise Haynes is a free agent. Kamu Gruger-Hill went to the Vikings at linebacker. Frankie Louvu went to the Commanders at linebacker. Linebacker Deion Jones is a free agent. They lost, it's out of order a little bit, edge Brian Burns in the trade to the Giants. Defensive line Deshaun Williams. Shaq Griffin at cornerback went to the Vikings. C.J. Henderson at cornerback went to the Texans. Dante Jackson at cornerback was traded to the Steelers. Safety Von Bell went to the Bengals. Jeremy Chin went to the Commanders. And they have Sam Franklin as safety as a free agent. I don't know what the fuck Carolina's doing. Honestly,
they got gutted on defense, man.
They got gutted on defense, which was the only high point of that team last year.
They had a great defense, and now they're going to have a horrible defense.
Yeah, and they gutted on defense, but they didn't really address the offensive issues they were having.
No, not nearly enough.
It might be the second time I pick a winless team since we've been doing predictions, because I just don't know what the fuck they're doing, and like they not like. I don't think they have a first round pick either.
No, because it's Chicago's.
It's Chicago's, and I don't think in any of the trades they got a first round pick. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have to figure that shit out.
Yeah, and
So,
they brought in, Dave Canales at head coach. Um, this is like the worst case scenario for him, right?
hmm
Because you didn't get solid offensive weapons. I do like Deontay Johnson. I don't think he's a wide receiver one, but he did have some 1,000-yard seasons in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but man, the defense is just shredded. This guy, he's got next to nothing to work with on offense, and now he's going to have next to nothing to work with on defense.
hmm
Yeah, Carolina's effed, man, and that's just putting it lightly.
Yeah,
So
that's
that,
very lightly putting it.
yeah, so that takes us to New Orleans. New Orleans. Uh, they have, let's see, they extended linebacker Demario Davis. That was smart. They extended safety Tyrann Mathieu. That was smart. They brought in linebacker Willie Gay Jr., formerly of the Chiefs.
Wait. Let's go to Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah,
Have you read the terms of his fucking contract?
I'm looking at it right now, but no, I didn't. I
A,
didn't read it
a
up until now.
two-year contract worth 13.75 million with 10 million guaranteed. It includes 3 voidable years.
Oh, well, New Orleans has to do that, right? Because weren't they like 70 million over the cap before they started finagling?
So his his cap hit in 24 and 25 is 6.25 million. I'm sorry, 6.5 then 6.25 million.
Yeah,
And like it's like so basically it's a 5-year contract, but 3 of the years are voided, so it
yeah,
spreads it out over the fucking term of the contract. This is like
yeah. The
that
CBA
contract.
needs to nip this shit in the bud, man. This is
Yeah,
wrong.
exactly. It does.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
so
I didn't
then
mean to interrupt you. I
no,
hadn't
I'm
seen it
glad
until
you
I
pointed that
hadn't
out.
seen it till
That's
just now, and I
that's
was
the
like, "What the
garbage we
fuck?"
talk about all the time, right? So I'm
Mhm.
glad that you mentioned that. All right, so then the other signing, this one was a notable one for them, was that they brought in Chase Young, and
Right.
so who'd they lose, dude?
All right. They lost Jameis Winston at quarterback to the Browns. They have their this list that I'm going to say some of these people were cut versus just straight free agents, but they're
Sure.
all listed as free agents on my list. Keith Kirkwood, Michael Thomas at wide receiver, Jimmy Graham at tight end, Cameron Irvin, Andrews Pete at offensive tackle, Max Garcia at guard. All those have still listed as free agents. Defensive line, Malcolm Roach went to the Broncos. Zach Bond went to the Eagles. Lonnie Johnson, that's linebacker Zach Bond went to the Eagles. Cornerback Lonnie Johnson went to the Texans. Cornerback Isaac Yiadom went to the 49ers. Safety Marcus May is a free agent, and DB Ugo Amadi is still a free agent. So I was all hyped up. Like I liked the moves that New Orleans was making until I heard about the neck surgery with Chase Young,
Okay.
and that concerns me with it. Hopefully they have something to cover themselves in that contract, because what happens if he just all season says, "I'm fucking hurt, my neck's
Yeah.
sore,
Yeah. No, I
pay
got
me
you.
money."
And hopefully that's not the case. See, I don't know, man. I don't really see how they got better. I don't
Yeah.
think they did get better, and I think part of it is because they're in the salary cap hell situation where, the Tyrann Mathieu contract just points it out. They're just freaking pushing it more into the future, right?
hmm
Because they fucked up good. And so but when I look at the list of the guys they lost, yeah, Andrews Pete, he was, I think decent for them. But I don't think like the world's fallen apart for New Orleans. It's just that they continue to not play up to their talent level, and I'm
hmm
not seeing anything that suggests that's going to change this next year. So I'm not exactly digging it, but whatever.
I hear you, and I 100% agree with you. Like I was starting to like I like the fact like they're still making moves and trimming it, and then I saw the fucking uh, contract terms for Tanner Matthew, and I was like, oh my god, they're
Yeah,
just like they're
they're
they're like
refusing to rebuild,
yeah, they're
and
refusing to
they're gonna
rebuild.
be shitty until they just suck it up and take it on the chin.
Hmm.
All right, that takes us to the NFC South. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, still in the NFC South. Sorry, last team in the NFC South. So they re-signed Mike Evans, which I think was huge. They re-signed Levante David at linebacker. They franchise tagged Antoine Winfield Jr. And I'm just looking, did they? I haven't seen anything about them reaching an extension with him
I
yet.
have not seen anything about that either.
Okay. They did re-sign Baker Mayfield. Had a little bit of success with them last year. They re-signed their kicker Chase McLaughlin. Not phenomenal, but he's been good for them, so you might as well bring him back. They brought in safety Jordan Whitehead. They re-signed running back Chase Edmonds, and they re-signed Greg Gaines. Um, let's see. Oh, I missed. They did sign at guard Ben Bredeson. Um, Man, those are, there were some lower level moves, but for them, it was more about hanging on to as many pieces as they could, and they did lose some pieces, which I know you're about to get to. I would like to see them get some fresh meat. To be honest,
Hmm.
I think the roster is subpar compared to last year, but we still have the draft to go. But yeah, why don't you hit up who they lost, man?
So I'm gonna only hit a couple of their losses because I think these are
Yeah, just hit the
like
big ones, man.
big
That's
ones.
fine.
So they lost Aaron Stinney to the Giants. Ryan Jensen, center, retired, which is
Yeah.
where I think the one of the big problems is. They lost Shaq Barrett to the Dolphins at edge, Devin White to the Eagles. Um, they lost defensive lineman William Golston, who's a free agent. The other ones really were pieces or are rotational players. So I'm not really that concerned about them. With Tampa Bay, I don't think Tampa Bay's got gotten better.
No.
Like you said, they kind of have to refresh some of these pieces and get right again. I don't think Baker Mayfield. I've talked about it all the time. He's not a fucking good quarterback and should just fucking find somebody.
Yeah, I think he was good for them last year, and it was a good situation for him to be in. And the 1 year contract, he had to prove himself, but it's hard to rely on him as a long term answer, especially when overall the talent level for the team is coming down. So, all right, that takes us to the NFC West then, James. And the first team we got is the Arizona Cardinals. And so with the Arizona Cardinals, they oh, I am on the wrong page here. Sorry, give me just 1 second. There we go. All right, so for the Arizona Cardinals, they signed cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting, fire up chips. They also signed linebacker Mac Wilson, defensive lineman Justin Jones. Um, they made the trade for Desmond Ritter with Atlanta, which, just to back up Kyler Murray. They signed offensive tackle Jonah Williams. That's one that I actually missed. I just now am seeing that, which was good. And man, aside from that, I'm not really seeing any big signings. Who'd they lose, man?
So they have lost. Where the fuck did my page go? Hold on. They have lost wide receivers Marquise Brown to the Chiefs, traded Rondell Moore to the Falcons. No, DJ Humphrey, offensive line, is a free agent. Leki Futu, defensive line, went to the Jets. Josh Woods at linebacker and Antonio Hamilton at cornerback.
Yeah, I don't know that they're. I don't know. Maybe because of some of the churn, they might be getting a little better. I'm not. I don't think they're getting worse. I do like the Jonah Williams signing to beef up the offensive
Hmm.
line. Sean Murphy Bunting, I like him. He went to Central, but he's not lighting the world on fire, right? He's not going to be a CB1, um, but he'll help. So it's almost like they're a bad team trying to get better, and maybe there just weren't that many moves for them to play, right? Maybe they got to do a few more in building from the draft and get some guys excited to come to
Like
town
maybe a
because
quarterback. Like I said,
yeah, what? Yeah, you want him to
should I
make a
say
move
that
on
way?
Kyler?
I don't think Kyler Murray is a QB1. That's my
Okay.
opinion, but I don't think he has what it takes. But
Well, they're not doing him any favors so far, right? I mean, they're giving him a little bit better protection, but they took away his top wide receiver.
yeah,
So, okay, so that takes us to the Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams they signed cornerback Darius Williams, who was actually previously with them, but he left for I don't know 1 or 2 years, whatever it was. They franchise tagged Kevin Dotson, which I believe they did sign him to a long-term deal.
yeah, I think it was a 3 year, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
They signed offensive guard Jonah Jackson, took him away from the Lions, which I'm really not upset about. They re signed Demarcus Robinson at wide receiver. They brought in tight end Colby Parkinson. Um, oh man, I didn't see this one. They signed Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, which I think that was actually a really smart move for them. And then they signed safety Cameron Curl, which I think was a smart move for them. We covered obviously Aaron Donald leaving already. Who else did they lose, James?
Uh, Aaron Donald is the big one. They lost Jordan Fuller to the Panthers. They lost Royce Freeman and two centers. Brian Allen is a free agent, and Coleman Shelton went to the Bears. They lost Jonah Williams to the Vikings from the defensive line. Um, that's about all the big ones for them.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously Aaron Donald very hard to replace. So now here's the thing. I've been hearing a lot of this stuff about Stafford possibly retiring too. And he's been saying the same thing for the last couple of years, much like Aaron Donald
Hmm.
and their head coach Sean McVay. None of these guys can ever make up their mind. Um, but Stafford had some injury stuff. He actually played really, really well last year with a subpar supporting cast, mostly on the offensive line, I would say. Um, I do like that they brought in Jimmy G because if there is a surprise retirement of Stafford or he gets hurt, at least you got somebody there. And now Jimmy G's not like some stud that's just going to carry him, but maybe he can keep him afloat, right?
Hmm.
Other than that, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's hard to lose Aaron Donald. So,
Yeah,
all right,
I don't like what's going on with the Rams, but they're another team that was kind of in salary cap hell.
yeah, yeah, I agree. All right, that takes us to the San Francisco 49ers. And so for the 49ers, they signed at edge Leonard Floyd, kind of helps replace Chase Young a little bit. They
Hmm.
brought in, or I'm not sorry, not brought in, they extended offensive tackle Colton McKivitz. They signed at edge also Yetur Gross Matos. You mentioned he left Carolina. They re signed safety George Odom. Um, aside from that, they re-signed John Feliciano. Oh man. Oh, they did bring in Malik Collins in a trade with Houston. I actually like that one. I'm just now seeing
Hmm.
this one. Um, and they signed linebacker Devondre Campbell. I like that one. Who'd they lose, man?
like their entire defense. Cleveland Farrell went to the Commanders. Randy Gregory's free agent. Chase Young went to the Saints. Eric Armstead went to the Jaguars. Sebastian Joseph, Titans. Javon Kinlaw to the Jets. Linebacker Oren Burks to the Eagles. Cornerback Isaiah Oliver to the Jets. And safeties Tashawn Gibson and Logan Ryan are still free agents. And that's about it. I don't see any of the losses on the offense as really big losses for them.
Yeah, you're right. They did lose a lot on defense, and maybe Eric Armstead probably the big one. I think Chase Young hurts because he did provide a little bit of juice for him last year. Well, Javon Kinlaw too. That one hurts. Um, I don't like seeing them lose
No.
those pieces on defense, man.
Yeah, but they're I think they're kind of preparing for they're gonna have to pay Purdy.
Yeah,
And
and I know they were stacked on defense, but still, that's a lot of guys to lose. Ugh. All right. Yeah, that makes me wonder. We're seeing sort of like a changing of the guard in San Francisco, right? It's we're not going to have one of the top one, two, three defenses now. We need to have a little more on offense. All right. I mean, hey, you got Kyle Shanahan, but um, yeah, that's just the way the game works, man. All right, that takes us to the Seattle Seahawks, James. And so the Seahawks, they re-signed defensive end Leonard Williams. I thought that was a crucial thing for them to do. They also re-signed tight end Noah Fant. Not like earth-shattering by any means, but he's a good tight end. They brought in Sam Howell in that trade with Washington, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. And let's see. They signed defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins. They brought in offensive tackle George Fant. Not like a ton of earth-shattering moves here for additions. Who'd they lose?
so they lost Damian Lewis, guard, to the Panthers. Evan Brown, center, to the Cardinals. Um, Mario Edwards, defensive line, went to the Texans.
Oh no, Nick Bellore. Oh no, I just saw it. Ah,
Nick Bellore is a free agent
Central
at
Michigan.
linebacker. Jordan Brooks, linebacker, went to the Dolphins. Devin Bush went to the Browns. Bobby Wagner to the Commanders. And safeties Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs are free agents. Seattle's a team that really is rebuilding. So I'm okay with what they've done in this, not paying Quandre Diggs, not paying Jamal Adams, not paying the exorbitant salaries when you have to kind of reset and get your team ready for the future.
Yeah, no, I like the way you put it because I don't think that they're like publicly saying that they're rebuilding, right? But these roster moves would have you believe they're definitely going in a different direction than what they have been. And you know, Pete Carroll's out. They've got a new head coach, and so that makes sense. It breaks my heart that they haven't re-signed Nick Bellore, but I'll get over it. Yeah. So James, that takes us to the NFC North, my man.
It does.
We'll start off with the Chicago Bears, and let me just shuffle my notes back around real quick. All right, so the Chicago Bears, they have been busy as fuck this offseason. They franchise tagged Jalen Johnson, which they should have, and they've now re-signed him to a longer-term deal or extended him, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean. They brought in Kevin Byard at safety. They brought in DeAndre Swift at running back. They brought in Gerald Everett at tight end. They brought in safety Jonathan Owens. They made a trade for offensive lineman Ryan Bates. Um, They also, let's see, made a freaking trade to bring in Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Um, they signed Coleman Shelton at center. Man, James, who'd they lose? Did they even lose anyone
Of note,
of note?
um, tight ends Mercedes Lewis and Robert Tonyan. Guard Dan Feeney went to the Vikings. Yannick Ngakoue is a free agent at
Oh
edge.
yeah,
Defensive
Eddie
line,
Jackson. Yeah,
defensive line Justin Jones went to the Cardinals, and Eddie Jackson at safety is a free agent. I really like what Chicago's doing. I hate
yeah,
saying that. It bugs
yeah.
me the fuck out of me to say that, but Chicago Chicago's one of the winners so far of free agency, I think.
I agree. They brought in uh, four guys that have at least an 84 rating on lineups.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very rare thing for a team to pull off, even a good team to pull off, to bring in four guys that highly rated. And so, and they retained a guy. They retained Jalen Johnson that's an 89. I mean, Chicago, they're definitely putting themselves on the map. And I think we saw it last year when they made the trade for Montez Sweat. That
Mm-hmm.
defense became really fucking good. And now you bring in Keenan Allen, you bring in Swift, you bring in. I really like the Gerald Everett signing. You're pairing
Mm-hmm.
him with Cole Kmet at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Chicago's doing, man. It's just going to be a matter of what happens at quarterback now because they traded away Fields, teed him up to draft potentially Caleb Williams, right? Can they win now with a rookie quarterback? Um, Even if they can't, I mean, the pieces are all in place that they basically gotta like, keep all these guys around for a few years. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Chicago's having a really good offseason. All right. Do you want to do the Lions last, or you just want to get them done?
Just get them done.
All right, let's rip the Band-Aid off. With the Lions, man. The Lions, they made a trade. The biggest thing they've done, they made the trade for Carlton Davis from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Aside from
Second
that,
biggest thing. Second biggest thing, but that's okay.
the second biggest thing. Okay. Aside from that, they re-signed Graham Glasgow at guard. He can also play center if they need him to. They re-signed cornerback Emmanuel Mosley. They brought in at edge Marcus Davenport, formerly from the Vikings, formerly from the Saints. They brought in Amick Robertson from the Raiders. They re-signed Michael Badgley, which that's one that kind of pisses me off. We can talk about that if you want. And they re-signed Jalen Reeves-Maybin, which I liked a lot. Um, oh,
You missed the biggest
no,
move they did.
thank you. Kevin Zeitler. Signing
No,
Kevin Zeitler.
you're still missing one.
What? Oh, DJ Reader.
DJ Reader.
I was getting there, James. I was getting there. Um, yeah, Reader's coming off a pretty serious injury, but
Right,
Zeitler.
but it's worth up to 27.2 million, only 9 million guaranteed. So if he can't come back from it, like it's a $9 million flyer on the player.
Yeah. Well, I just hope it works. I want it to work, obviously.
Right.
I want
But
it to work.
if it
Yeah,
doesn't work, it's not a huge
sure.
loss.
No, I got you. All right. So who'd they lose, dude?
Um, Jonah Jackson to the Rams, Matt Nelson to the Giants, Halapulu
Yeah,
Vaitai
hurt
is
and
a
never
free agent.
played, so we're not going to miss
Hurt never
him.
played. Romeo Aquara
Not going to
retired.
miss him.
Benito not going to miss him. Waived Cam Sutton. Lost safety CJ Gardner Johnson.
He was hurt all year, but I'm bummed out that we didn't get more time with him. Yep.
Safeties Will Harris and Tracy Walker the third are free agents, and can't forget they have their long snapper Jake McQuaid is a free agent.
All right, what do you think about these guys, man?
I like what they're doing. I did, obviously, and we'll get to this a little bit more later. I didn't like the whole Cam Sutton situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Which was
and
obviously unexpected and out of anybody's control.
yeah,
But yeah,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. And outside of that, I think they may need to bring in offensive linemen or draft an offensive lineman, offensive tackle.
yeah,
Um,
I think they pieced it together right by bringing in Zeitler for a year.
mhm.
But it would be good for them to draft some guys to develop because they need depth now.
Yeah, exactly. So I like what they're doing so far. I'll save what I want to see them do for question of the week.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, and I at first was a little bit nervous, right? When Carlton Davis was like the big thing, it was like, man, they had some cap space. I was expecting them to do some more, but it's one of these like slow and steady wins the race kind of things. And I do like DJ Reader. It could really work out for them. I do like Markin Davenport. It could work out for him. I do like Zeitler. Should work out for him. I do like them bringing back Glasgow. Amick Robertson should work for him. But a lot of these picks, they come with some risk, and
Hmm.
some of that's just natural in free agency, right? Like these guys would have been retained by their teams if they were that good and that injury free and all these things. Um, but I do have to have faith. I mean, especially after this last season, I got to have faith. Um, but let's talk about the Badgley re-signing.
I don't want to fucking talk about the Badgley resigning. I don't know why the fuck they resigned him
Yeah,
at all. I don't understand.
is
Understand
is
why do
this
you want a kicker that can't kick a 40-yard field goal?
Yeah, are they just hedging their bet in case they can't get someone else? Because man, you didn't trust him to kick it in the playoffs. Well, you did against the Rams, but then you didn't against the 49ers. Man, I just either you want him or you don't. I don't like it, dude. I don't like it. So that's the one thing that bothers me about this offseason for the Lions, which is
Hmm.
probably, I guess, good in the grand scheme of things. That's all I'm really bitching about.
True.
All right. That takes us to the Packers, my man. And the Packers, they brought in Josh Jacobs. I was kind of surprised about that. They also brought in safety Xavier McKinney. They re signed cornerback Keyshawn Nixon and cornerback Corey Ballantyne. Um, Aside from that, they did re sign A.J. Dillon. I was wondering if that was going to happen. Um, who'd they lose, man? Those were kind of the big ones on off or on the big ones that they brought in or retained.
All right. So they lost Aaron Jones to the Vikings. Offensive tackles, David Bakhtiari is a free agent. Josh Nijman went to the Panthers. John Runyon, offensive guard, went to the
Yeah.
Giants. Devondre Campbell, linebacker, went to the 49ers. That's about all the big ones. Jonathan Owens went to the Bears at safety.
So
Darnell
Bakhtiari
Savage went to
has
the
been hurt a
Jaguars.
lot, right, in recent
Exactly.
years.
Bakhtiari's been hurt a lot,
But
so it's
losing
fine.
him, Nijman, and Runyon,
Hmm.
it's that's a lot of pieces on the offensive line. I did like Aaron Jones a lot, but okay, you bring in Josh Jacobs, you're getting younger at the position. You still got A.J. Dillon. That's fine. I think losing Devondre Campbell's going to hurt him a little bit on defense. But they did bring in Xavier McKinney. You're talking a safety versus a linebacker. It kind of feels to me like they're, I guess I'm going to say on paper, maybe getting a little bit worse, but I want to point out that organically they're getting better, right? Because
Hmm.
Jordan Love, the young wide receivers, those guys are all coming up. And so you don't get to see that on paper because nothing changed there.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but they
I
they
do
got to
like
beef that
the
offensive lineup
upgrade
though, right?
the upgrade at running back going with Josh Jacobs over Aaron Jones.
Okay.
I think that's an upgrade there at running back, which will naturally help the offensive line in pass protection, but it will help Jordan Love and not getting pressured as much.
Fair point. Fair point. Well, I believe that takes us to our last team here, which is the Minnesota Vikings. And so, James, the Minnesota Vikings.
Wait. You're not going to give the Lizzo shout out? The new man on the Minnesota Vikings?
The what? The what?
New man on the Minnesota Vikings is a line in a Lizzo song.
I don't know who fucking Lizzo is, man.
She's okay. Look it up. Search "new man on the Minnesota Vikings" on your own time, and you'll hear the song.
You know me. I'm not hip, James. I don't know what's going on in the world these days.
The reason I laugh at it is because sports talk radio. I mentioned the sports talk radio host I listen to a lot always references that when Minnesota. This has been referencing that this week with the Minnesota signings.
Okay. It's over my head. Sorry, man. You thought you were hanging on with somebody pretty connected to the world these days, but I am not.
It is the song "Truth Hurts" by Lizzo.
Okay.
It says and the lyric says, "Fresh photos with the bomb lighting, new man on the Minnesota Vikings. Truth hurts, needed something more exciting."
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
I digress.
Nothing but a slizzo. All right. So the Vikings, they brought in Aaron Jones, which we just kind of covered at running back. They brought in at edge Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Greenard. I do like those because they had to obviously backfill Daniil Hunter. They brought in Blake Cashman at linebacker, re-signed Brandon Powell at wide receiver. Lighten up the world, signing Sam Darnold, quarterback. Aside from that, oh man, let's see. They brought in Jihad Ward at edge. They brought in Dan Feeney at guard. Man, they brought in linebacker Camu Grugier Hill. Grugier Hill. They brought in Shaq Griffin at cornerback. Who did they lose, my man?
All right. So the obvious one that we've talked about is the Cousins to the Falcons. They also lost Dobbs to the Niners, Madison to the Raiders, KJ Osborne. That's not a big loss. They lost guard Dalton Risner, who's a free agent, center Austin Schlottman to the Giants, edge Marcus Davenport to the Lions, Neil Hunter to the Texans, DJ Wonnum to the Panthers, defensive tackle Kairis Tonga to the Cardinals, linebacker Anthony Barr is a free agent, linebacker Troy Day went to the Chargers, Jordan Hicks at linebacker went to the Browns, and they also have their kicker Greg Joseph as a free agent. Aside from
am I missing something on the kicker thing here? I thought Greg Joseph was pretty good for them.
I thought so too.
That seems like a strange one that they've not brought him back.
Exactly. I think outside of the Aaron Jones being an upgrade over Madison, I don't like what Minnesota's doing. And but you have to look at they're going to have probably a rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold.
It's going to be a rookie. Come on. I mean, they're only giving Darnold, what, $6 million?
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, 8.75.
So you're having basically a rookie quarterback. I don't like the offensive line loss of Austin Schlottman and Risner.
Dalton Risner, yeah, he's good, yeah.
I don't like those losses, but last year, let's be fair. Last year, the defense in Minnesota sucked.
Yeah.
And the year before, they barely fucking won their games. So they had to do something. They have they have, and they're also gearing. They can't pay these high prices to a lot of players because they have Jefferson.
Yeah. No,
That's
that's true.
going
Yeah,
to
and
demand a
I mean,
lot.
he's got to be fuming without a quarterback at this point, right? So,
Exactly.
um, yeah, I think they're another one of these teams where it's like they're not saying they're rebuilding, but it's very obvious they are, right? So,
Hmm.
when you lose your top guy on offense in Cousins and your top guy on defense in Hunter, I mean, it is a rebuild. But I do like that they brought in Van Ginkel. I do like that they're I think that they're bringing in some pieces, like bringing in Aaron Jones was a good move. But yeah, it is a rebuild, and I don't know, dude. I don't have a lot of faith in Minnesota right now. I got to see some of this come together in the draft, and then I got to see some of it come together on the field next year. My model is going to have them very low for a while, is what I would imagine.
Hmm.
All right, that's all she wrote on the free agency recap. Unless we want to go back real quick, how we doing on timing? You want to try and catch up on some of the AFC stuff that's changed since last week?
I have. I don't think so. Like, there's not much really we missed.
I mean, where did Mike Williams end up with the Jets? So that was one, but that was I'm trying to think of what were any of the other big ones, maybe. I'm just skimming the list here, and I know I'm going to miss stuff because I'm just going fast, but
I'm not seeing much that we missed. Like, yeah, you had the Mike Williams went to the Jets.
yeah, I'm going too fast. It's all right. Well, yeah, no big deal, man.
Because some of the stuff that we missed, we hit because they were NFC teams that lost them.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, some of it came out, so it's good. All right, well, yeah, let's go to our question of the week then, man. And so, we talked about what happened with Cameron Sutton earlier, and that the Lions weren't exactly stacked in the secondary, okay? We lost a couple guys at safety. We were already weak at cornerback. We made the trade for Carlton Davis to try and shore that up. We were hoping Sutton would be back with Mosley and maybe, I don't know, draft at least one guy. Now with Sutton out, it seems to me like the obvious thing is that they should be trying to go out and sign a guy like cornerback Stephon Gilmore. But I want to know what your opinion is on this. I think Gilmore makes sense. I think if you're not going to get him, maybe you go after a safety like Justin Simmons, and then you bring Brian Branch down more into the nickel spot, and see if maybe shuffling it can make sense. But I guess my concern is, and maybe you know this, and I just haven't seen it yet, is how does this affect their cap with Sutton? Because they just guaranteed his 2024 salary like a week ago, man. And so I
So
don't know, do we get some kind of relief now that he's being released because of this arrest or warrant or whatever? Or how does it work, man?
so I actually forgot to look at the cap side of it. So give me 2 seconds
And I know
to.
we're living in a fake cap world, James. I just, my brain always likes to look at the cap because I want to live within the rules and I don't want to sacrifice our future. I want to do it for long term success.
So here's the thing about it. according to what I am seeing, in theory, according to this, his cap with cutting him. Well, I I don't know. I have to do more research into it because of the fact
Okay.
because of the fact that it says here that cutting him could save them 10 million against the cap. So I don't think it's updated for the guarantee.
Okay. So Spotrac is saying we still got 27 million in space. That seems
Yeah,
high.
and
But
that's what I have on over the cap too.
and I know we're looking at extending St. Brown and doing something with Goff. Penny Sewell's not far behind either. Um, let's see,
So
what was Stephon Gilmore's contract last year?
the problem, I'm completely honest, I do not want them to sign Stephon Gilmore. The reason I don't want them to sign Stephon Gilmore is because he's going into his age 34 season at cornerback, and I'm reading a lot that he's considering switching to linebacker.
Really? See,
Yeah,
because I heard the stats on him at cornerback were actually really good last year.
yeah. I've been hearing that teams aren't looking at him at corner. They're trying to sign him at linebacker.
Okay. Yeah, then maybe you look at a guy like Justin Simmons and you shuffle around your secondary. I don't know, man.
What
They're going to
about
have to draft
what
somebody.
about Steven Nelson? 3 years younger.
Oh, Steven Nelson's still hanging out there. I didn't even think about that.
Steven Nelson and Xavier Howard are still hanging out there, 3 years younger than Gilmore.
So, okay, but here's why Gilmore came to my mind is that it seems like the last couple years he's that journeyman guy
Hmm.
doing a 1 year deal or getting traded
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and I agree
Could
with
you
you.
get Steven Nelson or Xavier Howard on a 1 year deal? Because I don't think the Lions are wanting to do more than that. I think they're committing to Carlton Davis and they're wanting to draft a guy. Um, and maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, that's
So
just me trying to read the tea leaves. That's how Brad Holmes is going to want to do it?
and and I'm hearing you there. I think in that case, if you're looking for a one-off guy, you
A
go
1 year plug, man.
a one-year plug. You go a little bit further down the list. Like Gilmore, yes, could be a one-year plug. Being, I'm sorry, 33, not 34, so it's 2 years difference. But if you go further down the list, you have
Okay.
who Adoree Jackson, who's well, actually he's younger, but he had a down season last year, and he could look to get that 1 year contract to reignite his career. Tre'Davious White, again, 29, had a down season
Yeah, man, if
for his.
Tre'Davious White could get healthy, I'd like to bring him in. But man, I'm not sure now. He's missed some time, but okay.
Yeah, and so I mean, you have other cornerbacks out there that I hear the 1 year plug, but I
He's just
don't.
the obvious one, right?
Yeah, I mean, and even Xavier Howard, who's demanding a lot of money, kind of was unceremoniously dismissed from Miami.
Yeah. I just, I think I got a bad taste in my mouth with him, right?
Hmm.
Because, you go back a couple years ago where he was like, I'm the top cornerback on this team. I need to be paid more money than my counterpart, blah, 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 blah. Here we are a few years later, they're bouncing him out, and it sounds like the guy just, all he does is ever run his mouth, man. And I don't know that I want to bring a guy like that into Detroit.
Yeah, and I hear you there, but you might, since they were bouncing him out, you might get him for 1 year on his best behavior to get that contract he thinks he deserves.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I just I I think Gilmore probably would be like the last one on my list of like the top, like if you probably fourth or
Sure.
fifth on my list on who I think they should go after.
Okay. Well, hey, that's fine. That's a fair way to answer the question. So, all right, that's our question of the week. That's all I got for tonight, man. You got any closing thoughts, my man?
I think that's all I got too.
Okay. So, for anybody who's watching, we hope you liked the show. If you did, give us the thumbs up or the like. And for the love of God, play Name That Stadium. Or we're just going to get rid of it and save 2 minutes off the show every week. All right, cool. James, like always, it was good, man. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.